I'll go to Senator Moran.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for that courtesy. Thank you for you and Senator Tester having this hearing. Mr. Secretary, welcome. Let me first join what the chairman did in welcoming the new American Legion National Commander, but let me take that a step further. Thank you for your visit to Kansas last week. Significant number of posts across our state where you, I know, were well received, and I appreciate the message you brought to veterans in our state. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us today. I think you would know that one of my biggest priorities this Congress was the Mission Act and making certain that we achieved legislation that was more than just a reauthorization of the choice program. In my view, the Mission Act, or that reauthorization, was a choice, an opportunity for real reform at the VA, and one that we could not waste, and that we ought to use that as a chance to fix the very real problems that existed with choice and reform the entire VA healthcare system to better serve our veterans, really for decades to come. I think that largely we were successful in that effort, and a number of the reforms that I fought to have included in this legislation were put in place, and you are now preparing to implement them. My focus is on implementation, how you're going to do that. One of the provisions we fought to have included requires the VA to regularly consult with Congress during the development of rules and regulations that govern the program, particularly with the development of access standards, which will largely be used to determine when a veteran is eligible to receive community care. I am out across my state. We are about to complete our 105th town hall meeting, 105 counties in our state. I raised this topic, and I want my veterans to know that there was a choice program that's becoming something different. I need to make certain that it does become something different than what many of them experienced that didn't work for them. Next week, October the 4th, marks the first time the VA is required to consult with us, Congress, in developing those standards. And I want to make certain that it's a veteran-centric approach. I want the standards to be easy to understand and utilize for all parties involved, the VA, the veterans, the community providers, and I'm anxious to see what's presented next week to see that the VA is on the right track. One area that I want to highlight for you, bring to your attention, is this definition of episode of care. It's my hope that once a veteran is sent to community care for conditions, they are able to see their community provider through the entirety of their care for care of that condition. For example, a veteran needs eye surgery. It doesn't mean that you get the eye surgery under the Mission Act and then you're required to come back to the VA for follow-up care and treatment. I want to know, Mr. Secretary, so my question is, how do you expect that complex care that requires numerous appointments for a certain condition will be structured? So, and let me highlight this, because one of the problems we had with choice is a veteran was referred to community care by the VA and then was told once that provider needed a lab test, an x-ray, back to the VA for additional authorization. That's a component of this, but also the continuum of care that's needed for a particular condition. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir, and I also want to thank you for making your staff available as I've gotten into my job and my discussions with them. My view of Congress's thrust in mission is to do exactly what you said. It is to give that veteran choice and allow that veteran to continue with the choice that he or she is most comfortable with. I think we have a continuum of issues that will come together to provide that. Electronic health record, getting our access standards, as you said, understandable and available to everyone, particularly, as I've said before, we still don't understand the scale of the American West. West of the Mississippi, I think our changes when they come for access standards will revolutionize veterans care. It is my goal to make sure that that veteran will experience the continuum of service where he or she desires. And I think that is one of the more revolutionary changes that comes out of mission. I will also say, in response to your last comment about briefing, we will have that 120-day briefing for you tomorrow. I think we're a little ahead of schedule. I will take responsibility for not coming the last day of August, when I think the first 60-day period was there, because I didn't yet know what was in it. But I can assure you that we will get a very comprehensive briefing up here tomorrow, and we will meet the first hurdle that I'm fully responsible for in response to Senator Tester's comments tomorrow.
Mr. Secretary, I thank you, and I look forward to further conversations with you. We will talk about budgeting and the ability for the VA to predict the costs and levels of care required.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.